Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
I am Anthony D. Smith, and today's guest is David Spark. He's the author of 3 Feet from 7 Figures, One-on-One Engagement Techniques to Qualify More Leads at Trade Shows. It's available at 3feetbook.com. He helps event producers and businesses who sponsor trade shows simply be more successful finding, engaging, and qualifying customers. David Spark is the founder of the brand journalism firm Spark Media Solutions. Since 2007, their unique brand of influencer-infused content has helped make their clients thought leaders in their industries. Spark blogs regularly at sparkminute.com and is the co-host of the Teardown Show podcast. And David, you say that 4 of the biggest problems midsize and enterprise businesses, especially in the technology field, at trade shows have is people not actually working the booth, not understanding engagement, and bringing the wrong people to the show and bad behavior, which sounds kind of naughty, but we're going to see what you mean exactly by that. So, David, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being here. For you to say one of the biggest problems for a business to have at a trade show to be people not working the booth, it really seems kind of crazy to pay somebody to work a booth and then find out they're not actually working. What do you mean by that, not working the booth?
A trade show is a very surreal, bizarre environment. It is not something we're normally accustomed to, and it's compressed time and space. All your potential customers are physically in one location. All your potential and existing competitors are all physically in one location as well. And you're all vying for their attention in a very confined space that is only going to exist for a short period of time. You need to take advantage of that. And what I mean by not working it is a lot of people believe that their job is to just stand in the booth. That's it. Stand in the booth. If someone comes up to me and asks me a question, I'll ask it. And they believe, and sometimes managers believe this as well, that if that's what they do, they have had a very successful day. I stood in the booth. There was physically a lot of traffic. People came by, back and forth, and I answered any question that people came by. That's actually not what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is physically be out there, stopping, engaging, qualifying potential customers, having positive engagements, and moving them on, not spending 20, 30 minutes with one person, but doing this in a very quick round-robin fashion. And what's so bizarre to me, talking about the money that is spent, is with all the ludicrous money is spent, little to zero money is spent on how to actually prepare the people for that experience and what to physically do and say. And everyone agrees, especially when we're dealing with B2B companies, that people are selling to people, period. It is not your booth design. It is not your giveaway. It is the person having the conversation with the other person to begin the dialogue that leads them down the road to a sale.
I mean, when you go searching on Google for, how to be successful at a trade show, the number one thing that seems to always come up is the giveaway. And nothing is ever being talked about as far as training the person at the booth to actually engage people.
Yeah, if you think your giveaway is what's going to sell them, you couldn't be more wrong, because chances are extremely high that the person who wins your giveaway will never become a customer. So don't think that. The giveaway is just something as a conversation piece and a way to get people to, for you to scan their badge or drop a business card in a bowl. That's really all the giveaway's sole purpose is. Nothing else.
So do companies who have this problem know it? Because it would seem to me if they did, they would be investing the money to be training their booth workers.
That's why I wrote this book. So the book, 3 Feet from 7 Figures, what that is sort of a metaphor or sort of the image I'm trying to develop is you are physically so close to so much money, and you just don't know how to close that last 3 feet gap. And if you knew how to do it, if you knew how to stop a complete stranger, engage them, and qualify them, you could be on your road to a 7-figure, And I'm saying 7 figures because most of our clients are big B2B tech companies, and the lifetime value of them is inevitably 7 figures. Inevitably, the reason they don't know is they just don't think they're doing anything wrong. I mean, and also it's hard to tell someone you're not talking right to other people. That's like, what do you mean I'm not? I'm a grown man. I'm a grown woman. I know how to talk to people. I'm a salesman. That's all I do all day. But it's a very specific, unique environment that requires a very specific pattern and speed of conversation and turning over of the conversation. And that's where most people just aren't prepared for it and just don't know how to deal with it. I will tell you, I would say 90 to 95% people are not prepared for it and do little to zero preparation. I mean, the irony is last year we were at a trade show. My lead trainer and I, we were presenting. It's actually a trade show about the trade show industry, and we're speaking again this year. It's called the IAEE Expo. It's going to be in Baltimore on December 2nd. And we shot a video where we just asked people, what's your best opening line? And some people had a good opening line, some. But I was surprised at the number of people whose only opening line was hello, which is okay, it's friendly. And a lot of people that literally never ever thought it. And we asked them, how much do you spend to get here? Oh, about $30,000. And you didn't spend 10 minutes to come up with an opening line. No. Why not? I mean, it's astonishing. And this is really, really common, very common. I would just say the number one thing is everyone should spend some time, bare minimum, have at least 3 good opening lines in your back pocket.
I remember as I was going through your book, one of the coolest things you talked about was just to simply ask a question. And how many people don't know that? Could you elaborate on that? Because I think what you're really saying is breaking the ice is probably one of the biggest things that if people just knew how to do that would make them more successful right away.
Right. And that's what the book talks about. The book really kind of walks you through the 3 steps that you essentially, the 3 core steps you need, which is breaking the ice. That how do I stop this complete stranger and have this moment of engagement, just a positive moment of engagement? Then how do I take that positive moment of engagement? I've stopped you, Anthony, and now how do I move it over to qualifying, whether you're a potential customer or not? And if you are a potential customer, how do I now end this conversation? Because while we're having a great time chatting, I truly have limited time, and there's lots of potential customers walking by. And I need to engage with as many of them as possible. And now if you're disqualified, the same thing. I need to end this conversation positively, because even if you're disqualified, even there's no way you and I are ever going to do business again, you talk to people who would potentially be good customers. So I need to make this a positive experience. I don't want you speaking ill of my company. And so you just kind of need to know those things. I often, the question part, and sorry, I sort of kind of went through sort of the lineage of it, but going back to your original question, an opinion question works really well. So if you're at let's say, a big cloud database show or something like that, you could stop someone, hey, can I ask you your opinion? Do you think people are handling big data well? And now it's not a situation about me, like, hey, pay attention to my new products and stuff, but it's now you and your opinion on big data. Because, everyone's got an opinion. And so you answer the question, and then how you answer the question will determine whether you're a potentially qualified customer or not, assuming this is our category. I have one question that I give to everybody, and this universally works in literally any environment of a trade show or conference, and that is just to stop someone and say, what is the coolest thing you've seen at the show so far today? That works in any situation. And the reason it works so well is, again, it puts it on the person. I'm not selling. Second of all, I'm trapped in the booth. I don't know what's going on at the show. It allows me to sort of educate myself through other people. And then third, most importantly, your answer will determine whether you're potentially qualified. Because if you answer something that's relevant to my business, then I'm like, all right, now we're into a discussion about it.
Simply knowing the right question to ask, break the ice, and knowing that there's a series of just a few simple steps to follow, that if you just repeat that over and over and over again while you're there is amazing. And that's amazing that still most people don't know that exists. That's incredible.
Well, a lot of it has to do with some people just don't have the physical constitution to handle a trade show environment, because a lot of a trade show environment is dealing with rejection, and you can't take it personally. I mean, I'm really, really good at working a trade show floor. I've been doing it for years. Most of what I do is I go out and interview people on video camera, which we think a video camera is actually a really good idea to bring because it works really well as a prop. But the thing is, you can't take the rejection personally. People will reject you a lot, but if you're not getting rejected, that means you're not trying. And
absolutely.
And you just do not take it personally at all. That's all I have to say is if you go out there and you're engaging with people and you get rejected, It's not a rejection of you. And here's the weird thing, especially when you're representing the company and you have the company's name on your shirt, or in my case, I'm usually carrying a microphone with the microphone flag has the company name on it. If I ask you for an interview, or I come up to you and want to talk to you, and you say no to me, I have to make, and this is a very bizarre thing, but I have to make you feel good about saying no to me. That's not easy to do. It's tough. And it's really important to maintain brand, because you don't want, if you ask someone to stop by and they say no, you can't tell them to, screw off, because you got your company brand on it, and now all of a sudden you've just tainted your brand. I have to, you say no to me, and I go, okay, no sweat, enjoy the rest of the show, have a great time, come back later, or have giveaways, anything like that. But make them feel good about saying no to you, and it's really, really important. A lot of people just don't understand that concept. It's important, especially after you get rejected a lot. It's really, really hard to sort of maintain that positive attitude.
David, I have to ask you, why is my VP of sales probably the worst person to work the booth?
So I think they're the worst person to work the booth. Most people think they're the best person to work the booth, and I'll explain why. And again, I'm gonna paint with a very broad brush here. This doesn't describe your company or your business or how you behave in trade shows. Obviously, take this with a grain of salt, and don't need to agree with me on this. But in general, most companies go to trade shows to connect with past customers or existing customers, connect with potential customers, and mostly to gather leads. To connect with potential customers. Or, there are potential customers you've started and those you haven't at all, and those would be the leads. So mostly that's what it is gathering leads. And that's what booth duty mostly is gathering leads. A salesman's job usually is to take leads and follow up on them. Also, a salesman's job at a show is usually to connect with their existing customers or work potential customers that they've begun a dialogue with. So it's a lead that they've already been working on. The last thing they want to do is to start generating leads for another salesman to use to make a commission off of. So they want to do anything but be in that booth. Anything they're doing in that booth is actually losing them money. They don't want to be there. They want to be wining and dining clients or potential clients in a booth. And I can't, it is a financial disincentive to put your salesman in the booth. And I highly recommend you don't do it.
So
but I was just saying everyone thinks they should, because the salesman is always a good talker. And that's why, people feel that he or she should be in the booth for that reason. The booth is mostly about generating leads, and the salesman takes the leads and go with them. So it's a step before them in the process that they don't want to be dealing with, essentially.
So who should be in the booth?
Well, that's a really good question, because a lot of people don't even think about that. They more or less, they just go to we need the VP of sales, we need the engineering person, we need the CEO, we need this. And honestly, what you really need to do is audition people. And this is kind of what we do in our training, is that we actually, in the process of training, we're actually also auditioning people. And, there's just certain people in your company that have the constitution and the personality to work a trade show booth. And honestly, that's who I think should work the booth. Now, granted, there are certain people that possess certain knowledge about your company that physically have to be in the booth, because people will come up, will ask questions for which, your sort of most charming underling, who doesn't have the knowledge but is really great at roping people in, just doesn't have the knowledge and it has to hand off. Yes, you're going to have a few of those people, but you can still train those people to a degree, even if they don't have the physical and sort of emotional constitution to handle the sort of the back and forth that's constantly needed at a trade show. But you really need to we say audition, but we don't really kind of outright say, by the way, you're auditioning to be at the booth. But in a way you should, because a lot of people look at booth duty, especially if they're higher up, as a punishment. Oh, I have to stay on the booth the whole day, because it's physically exhausting. And so if you do it kind of like on an audition, like you get the chance to win an opportunity to work the booth, then people are a little bit more excited about it as well. And we also suggest building in some type of incentive program to get them to work hard. And a lot of people don't realize that small incentives, like literally $50, $100 or a prize or something like that to someone who brings in the most leads, can really invigorate your staff.
And what I love about that is it's not just some people focus on the amount of leads they get. Some people focus on the quality. What you really stress is both. You're getting more qualified leads all at once, and you're getting sometimes 3 to 4 times the amount of leads that your clients were getting by themselves. What is like the look on their faces? What do they say to you when they realize, like, wow, we had no idea this was even possible, when they thought they might have even been doing
well? Well, and this goes back to the earlier question. I wrote this book because I knew there was a need in the industry for it. At the same time, I know there's no demand. Going back to my earlier comment, most people are like, nobody needs to explain to me how to talk. But once we actually show the techniques and we're doing it in a training, or they read it in the book for that matter, they're like, oh, we do get this sort of eye-popping moment, like, I had no idea you could do this. And there are literally tricks and techniques to stopping people. And because people are kind of in a beta state when they're walking up and down the aisle. It's not like stopping a person on the street. When you stop a person on the street, they're literally going somewhere. On a trade show floor, they're literally wandering the aisles. So they're looking for an excuse to stop. You need to be that excuse to stop them. On a rare occasion, people are going to a specific destination on the floor, and it does happen every now and then. But almost, 95% of the time, they're not. They're just looking for an excuse to stop, and give them that excuse. Just standing there. I mean, I should mention the one thing I didn't mention that I think is most critical. And I'll tell you, if you do 2 things, if you get 2 things from our talk today, here are the 2 things. One is, like what I said before, have a good opening line. And the one I said before, what did you see cool with the show today, works universally. The second, and this is the most critical, even more so than the opening line, but how hard is it to have an opening line? Don't do bad behavior in the booth. And what I mean by, what do you think, I'll ask you, Anthony, what do you think bad behavior in the booth is?
Well, I'm kind of biased because I read through your book. So,
okay.
So I know one of the things that stood out to me, I can tell you that, is, and I never really thought about it, never realized it, was people talking to each other in the booth instead of engaging customers. And that was actually very significant for me because as you walk through a trade show, I actually, now that I think about what you're saying, 95% of the people do things like that. But I wouldn't consider it bad behavior before. It's just they don't know what else to do. And
right.
I think
and you're 100% right on that. They don't know what else to do. And here's the part that makes it very weird and strange that it's bad behavior. It's completely normal, accepted, and expected behavior when you're in the office. It's normal to talk to your colleagues in the office. In fact, you should. It's normal to look at your phone and talk on your phone when you're in the office. In fact, you should. It's normal to work on your computer when you're in the office. Again, in fact, you should. And it's also okay to eat at your desk when you're at the office. Feel free. But all of those behaviors on a trade show floor are actually seen by an audience as you're walking by, and they're actually abhorrent because each one of them signals, I'm not to be bothered. I don't have the time for you. Don't bother me. And that's the part that's so confusing to people. Again, the trade show is a bizarre, weird environment. And your booth is literally a live stage that is hot for all the hours that the show's floor is going on. Anything you do in that booth is presented to the people outside. So if you're staring at your phone, people are rejecting you without even talking to you. So if you think it's bad that you ask someone, hey, you try to stop someone in the booth and they say, no, I'm not interested. If you think that's bad rejection, what's far worse is you without even speaking to you. They look at you on the phone and go, screw that person. They're thinking in their head. They got a subtext going in their head. So that's the part that people don't understand. And the booth huddle is, I think, the absolute worst of them all because nothing about the booth huddle says, come on in and join us in our conversation. Nothing. It says, we're in a private meeting, go away. And often the booth huddle means that the people's back are to the floor as well. It's awful. It's the worst thing you can do at a trade show. Whenever I have clients who do that, I literally walk up and I say, hey, guys, break it up. They just don't know they're doing it. They're not aware.
So when somebody does work with you, when you work with a client, how does that sort of work? Is it more like you observe them first and then you go and show them? Do you go and show how you do things? Because I know you've had examples where, where clients see you in action and they see you doing it your way, and it's so different from what they're used to. I mean, how does that usually work for a client to work with you? How do you go about it?
So we do it in two different ways. We go to their office before the event, and we just kind of work in a conference room, and we can kind of do sort of all day, or we split it up into 2-hour things. Like we'll bring in different groups at a time, depending. Like we've had some companies that send like 25, 30 people to a show. I mean, they're sending a ton of people, and then we're just kind of training the group, and we're also giving them feedback, like you know, this person's really good, this person maybe not send them. They just don't have the constitution, that kind of thing. When we begin, we kind of talk about a lot of things you and I have talked about already, which is we talk about the problems and how people are behaving. We have some videos that we show. They're available on my website as well, just showing sort of bad behaviors that people do. And here's the bizarre thing: I hired a photographer at one trade show, and I gave her the entire day to just go around and photograph the bad behaviors, all the things we talked about, staring at the cell phone, working on the computer, eating, booth huddle. In an hour, she was done. Had like about 80 photos. And it was insane how much bad. I mean, it's rampant.
Wow.
Yeah, it's rampant. It's so crazy how much bad behavior goes on, and it's hard to keep going. And and sometimes, like for example, I had one client where they were sitting down, eating, and just talking to each other in the back of the booth. And I said, guys, you got to stop doing this. And the woman said to me, oh, well, we're just tired. And I go, well, that's fine. You can be tired. That's fine. Just don't do it in the booth. Like, just go anywhere else. Like, just if you need to take a break, that's fine. If you need to talk to your colleagues, that's fine. If you need to look at your phone or talk on the phone or eat, that's fine. Just get out of the booth. I can't stress that enough. If you need to do any of those things, which are all perfectly fine and normal, just get out of the booth, because you're just presenting this really bad image. And that's the thing. It's just people just don't realize it. They're not trying to be mean. They're not trying to be bad. They just don't realize it. And again, like what I said, it's like these are all normal and expected behaviors in the office. Just they shouldn't be performed on the trade show floor.
I'm just thinking, about the photographer. I mean, that's almost a photo per minute of bad behavior.
Oh yeah, there were so many photos, and then we did another event where we shot video of just bad behavior, and I had shots where I would interview a person and I framed it so literally the person like staring at their cell phone was over the shoulder of the person I'm interviewing. So I would say, hey, do me a favor, turn around and take a look at the person right behind you. He goes, what do you think when you see that? And then I was getting reactions out of people. So that was the part that to me was the funniest, was literally getting people in the shot that were doing bad behavior as I was interviewing people about their bad behavior.
So let me ask you this. What is the coolest experience you think you've had with a client turning them around and making them more successful?
Well, I mean, just like it's like in any business, when you sort of educate them and they swallow it up and they actually do it and they succeed. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, we just did this with a client, Tenable Network Security, at a conference, and they just couldn't have been more receptive. Because honestly, it's really, we're treading down a tough road here. It's very difficult to start a business that trains people to change behavior. That ain't easy. That's really, really tough. And that's what we're trying to do. And I was shooting video at the event, and I was watching their behavior after we had trained them. And they really just did an awesome, awesome job. They were using all the techniques we taught them, and they were so excited about it. And the bottom line is, once you're armed with the tools to use, you feel a lot more comfortable and excited to do the work. If you go there kind of like, all right, I'm here, what do I do? Then every minute becomes agony, And that's when you reach for your phone to stare at it or talk to your coworkers because you just don't know what to do.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. It is a very, very difficult road to go down, but you've chosen to go down this road and help people you're working with people who are really smart people. And to go down the road and say, you're really smart, and you got to tell them that, there's something you're not doing, that they don't even want to admit they have the problem. In many cases, it is a tough road. So my question to you is, what led you, because you've been doing this for 20 plus years?
Well, no, the business, we've been doing our business for 9 years. The trade show training is actually something fairly new, but we've been working in the trade show industry now almost exactly 9 years. But I've been a tech journalist for 20 years. I've been covering the tech industry for 20 years.
Okay, so for 9 years, so you're almost 10 years now. What made you decide to help the clients that you serve now and go down this road? What got you into this to decide, you know what, I really need to do this. This is something I'm really passionate about and want to do, and I want to help these clients get this resolved?
I will tell you, because literally all my clients made this mistake. Every single one of them. There wasn't one that didn't make these mistakes. And I'm talking the biggest enterprise companies that are our clients. And it would literally pain me to watch the behavior. It was like, they have no idea how bad this is. It just drove me crazy to watch the behavior. And I would talk to some of my clients, and it was interesting. One client I sent a copy of my book to, and she knew that I was passionate about this topic because they were really bad about it. And I would always kind of push them, like, get them out of the booth huddles. Tell them to stop doing that, And so she understood. It was just one of those things, like, when you see something that's so bad and literally all your clients are doing it, but you love your clients and you work with your clients and you realize this can change. So, I mean, it's just a case of, I know there's a need. There's unfortunately no demand. I'm hoping my book and talking to people like you, Anthony, will make people a little bit more aware that this service is needed for them.
So let me ask you, if they want to get their copy of the book or find out more about you, what can they do? Where can they go?
So the book website is 3feetbook.com. You can use the number 3 or the word 3 there for 3feetbook.com. You can get it on any digital format. You can get it in print. And it's a super easy read. It's 100 pages with a ton of pictures. You could literally read this book on the plane to the trade show you're going to. So, but I recommend you read it beforehand because, again, we also sell our training service, but it's very hard, like with any kind of self-help book, it's very hard to read a book about something and then literally become an expert about it immediately after reading it. But there's no doubt about it. If you read it just before going to a show, you'll be very successful. And in fact, I was on another podcast with a woman who bought my book immediately after the podcast because she was flying to a show the next day, read it, and said this was immensely valuable for her just before going to the show. And we've also, by the way, we've sold bulk copies to big events because they want to give them out to their sponsors, as a theory being, if their sponsors do better, get more leads, then they'll want to come back to the events and sponsor it some more. So I'm glad that that's become kind of a new market for us, that we can sell them that way as well in bulk to them. But yeah, go to 3feetbook.com. And also my main business is we generate sort of what we call relation-based content. We're a content marketing or a brand journalism firm, and that you can find out on sparkmediasolutions.com.
Definitely very valuable information, and I highly recommend you grab a copy of David's book, 3feetbook.com, and have fun being way more successful at your next trade show.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.